All right, welcome to the Better Everyday podcast. I'm Roberto Boy, head of growth at Dilate Digital, and today we have the No Fluff AI Masterclass podcast with some juicy guests. And I'm gonna start from our whole friend Travis Words. Welcome back to Dilate, and welcome to the podcast again.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
We got Kieran Sandhu, our operation manager. How are you going?
Good. Excited to be here.
And then we have a super guest today, Carly Dalton, Back on Track Foundation CEO, former CEO at Shield Cancer Research Foundation, and Cedar Gosner's council member. Welcome, Carly.
Thank
How
you
you
very
doing?
much, Roberto. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So let's start with a very quick question. You have diverse backgrounds. Carly, how does AI fit into your world? I know you're a lot into governance and risk and ethics, but
Yes.
how do you use AI daily, and what do you do around AI?
Well, AI for us is it's a critical component being in the not-for-profit sector, and we use it to level up and give us the innovations that we might not be able to afford to have in some bigger organisations that can afford high-tech people. We're able to plug in some not-for-profit AI tech.
So a lot of optimization and
Absolutely. When we started to look at what AI could do, I'm an early adopter of technology. So for me, it was as soon as it was out there available, I started to look at how can I use it, what is it, what's out there, and how is everybody else using it. So I started to do a lot of research myself, and that was when I realised this is something that's going to help small business. It's going to really change the way we operate, and especially for the not-for-profit sector. I've been in this space for a good 25 years now. And it's something that we always struggle with, is that trying to get ahead or trying to compete with salaries or trying to compete with the high level of skill sets that you need to be able to succeed. It can be really difficult. So I was very excited when AI first came out, but at the same time, being that I'm a fellow at the Governance Institute of Australia, governance and risk is vital. And so I started to think about, what do we need to do? What do I need to know? And what does my board need to know? And how do we implement it in the Back on Track Foundation?
Like everything, like when the internet came out and the privacy and GDPR and all those the cookies and the tracking and everything was a risk, right? And then we only learn with time, but we'll circle back on governance later.
Yes.
Trev, developer visionary. I want to read your LinkedIn. I eat coffee for breakfast and push pixels around for lunch.
Yeah.
How does that fit into you?
How does it? Yeah. Basically, I kind of consider myself a tinkerer by trade, an innovator. I've been a developer for, so long that I'm starting to hit that period where I feel kind of like I've been developing for almost too long. Like when I say I've been doing this now for 20 plus years, it's like, whoa, you've been in the seat for a while. But AI is just, for me, it's just absolutely been a game changer. I mean, that sounds cliche, but I'm like you, an early adopter. I've been playing with it now for a few years, and I guess, just trying to see what might be possible with it. Like every single day, I'm. You guys know this now that I've been in the office for a few days. It's like, what can we try and achieve today with this tech? That normally would have taken, I don't know, months and months of planning, the right skill sets to come on board with the right level of understanding to implement those things and build these ideas. But AI has just fundamentally shifted that overnight. And like you were saying, now organizations that may not have historically had access to the capabilities required, we've all got it. And I guess, I'm using it every single day. There's not a day that goes by where I don't have multiple LLMs open in front of me. I'm relying less on Google. Every single day I'm on some form of AI most of my working day.
Yeah, and big part of it, today 60% of searches on Google ends with no clicks, and we saw a surge into ChatGPT searches, which is probably changing the way we search things. And,
Totally.
And the way we do digital marketing, right? So everyone is now using AI, and how do we get our clients up in there?
Yeah,
That makes sense.
right.
And well, we have Kieran here, and Kieran has been doing some great work around with other functions at Dilate, how to use AI and with everyone. How does AI fit into your world and in terms of operations? Because you do a lot of work, and we need to give you credit for it. How does it fit into your world, and how do you use it?
I live by a simple theory. It's the laziest people will work the hardest to do the less, and that's why I love AI.
Totally.
It's
Tend to agree.
it's true though. I mean, it's allowing us to take out at the very essence of it just all of the mundane activities that we do. If you can remove the manual handling and let people do what they do best, it's going to allow us to achieve fantastic results for ourselves, for our clients, for the industry, for everyone. So AI it's everywhere with me. It's in everything I do. It's in everything I try and preach because, well, work smarter.
Yeah, and going back to what Kylie said about not-for-profit and AI, and I'm president of a club. Manpower is an issue. Time is an issue. AI is helping us just do a lot of stuff. And Kylie and I participated into an event, Cedar Gosnos for local micro businesses, and I think AI for them can really help them scale or do a bit more than before without the need of hiring multiple resources. And I want to talk about the misconceptions about AI into small businesses. What are for you the biggest ones today?
Misconceptions that it's going to end up that it's going to end up like Skynet, that that AI will take over the world, or I mean, that's probably for a different podcast because I'd love to go down that rabbit hole with you. However, the misconceptions are that it's stealing all your data, that it's putting it out there for everybody, and that you absolutely have to have really good, strong governance and privacy concerns around it, but it's not necessarily taking all of that information. But there is just a lot of misinformation out there. And really, if you get this appetite where you start using it and start understanding how it can be used within your space, I think you'll find that those misconceptions will start to evaporate a little bit anyway. That it's the more it gets to know you, depending on the LLM that you use, the better the information. So the quality of data that you can give it is going to give you much better output on information. So I don't think AI is going to take over the world unless we have terrible governance around it. I don't know that we're getting to this point of even generative AI yet. I'm not sure that we're there yet. There's lots and lots of talk around super intelligence and that, in the dev world, that when it gets there, when this super intelligence gets there, that we are going to be we won't understand the language. So, that before we get there, there's a lot of things that need to happen. But it's not going to be Skynet. It's not going to be. There's not going to be robots taking over the world and replacing us, taking our jobs.
It's funny because you see the robots and you see AI and you're like, wow. And then you see the robots that are a bit still like very robotic and not very fluid. So I think I have to catch up a bit with, movements and sort of anatomy. But Trev, go.
Jump in. I mean, I'd agree. Like, I feel like I get asked this question quite a bit. Is it going to take our jobs? Should we be worried? And I think from my personal experience, I was seeing it start writing code better than I could, quicker than I could. And at first, my gut reaction was, "Oh gosh, what am I? What am I needed for?" But then you start to lean into it, and you're like, "Wait a second! I can tell this robot what to do and what I'm asking for, and I can give it very specific, things and questions, and it can start to amplify my ability rather than take my ability away from me." And I think that's where I've really got on the opposite end. And it's like, no, this is going to help everyone. This is going to improve lives. This is going to, hopefully we'll be able to do. It depends on. This is kind of a controversial point, but like some people are of the camp that like, because we should do more, should we? Like, do we 10x ourselves every single day and like go down this rabbit hole of trying to produce as much as possible, or do we try to carve out a future where we can get some of that time back in
Yeah,
our
just
lives and some of
click
that
them,
me
yeah.
time that I think historically we've just sort of ignored.
New
Yeah,
generation,
it'll be
though,
really-
new generation, though, they love their me time, and I think it's a very good thing that they want their me time. I want to travel, especially after COVID.
I want some me time. So it's like, it's when you think about, once you understand it, once you see that it's actually, it really dovetails well into your work life. And you need to have human oversight. We need to be human aligned with AI technology. And so if you are always aware that no matter what LLM does for you, you must be the person that actually checks. And we go through this with all of our staff. It's like, great, get ChatGPT or Claude or whomever to, write your code or your copy or your blog or whatever. You have to check it.
Yep.
You have to fact check it. You cannot you cannot. And
That's
this is a space for you guys as well in the agency space. It's like, you can have much more automation within the workspace. However, the agents that are being built now, the technology that we have now to build those automated agents, you still need to check it.
Yep.
And, this is why we aren't going to lose our jobs, but we're going to change our jobs. And it's going to be more about, how do we work alongside AI and get more of that me time back, but have that oversight into whatever the output.
But it's like when cars came in, horses didn't lose their jobs; they still exist.
Yeah.
It was in a different way, right?
Yeah, now
when
that-
drones came in, and we had this chat last time with the videographer, drones came in. Helicopters not going to be used for filming? They're still going to be used because they can do different things. And Body of Founder says something that it's extremely important. This is advice to everyone. If you learn how to use AI, you're going to secure your job or your future.
Totally.
If you don't know how to use AI, you're probably going to lose your job. And it's going to be hard for you to find another one. That's the biggest
just-
thing.
I will speak as a CEO and a founder of an organisation. If you don't get a culture of AI technology use within your work, not only are you going to lose competitive edge, but you're also going to have a huge risk with all of your staff because they're going to be using it.
Absolutely.
So, it's not a case of whether you get your staff to use it, they're already using it. You need to be leading from this space. And if you're a CEO that doesn't do that now, you need to. You need to get into that space.
And this is the one thing I love about AI at its core of it is that it's assistive technology. It's not a replacement. It's not, at its current form anyways, it's not going to take your job. It's not going to take all of the work you do and make it redundant. It's assistive. It's to help you get from here to here with less effort, less stress, and to improve what the output is.
So this is a question that I'm really passionate about, and we're going to start with Kieran. Are we shifting marketing from gut instinct to data-driven decision making? And do you think that I absolutely love what AI says, but does it need a little bit of gut feeling and emotional, and then the human brand in it? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, AI particularly for us as a marketing agency, looking at data-driven decisions is great because the volume of data that a agent or a model can pass in such a short amount of time is 1,000 times more than any human can look at. But where we still need that human edge is people know people. And we're not at a stage in where AI has developed to a point where it understands exactly what you're feeling, what your heart desires. There's still a human element there. I mean, at the core of it, what does it say? The human recognizes something like 20,000 points on a face to understand all the micro expressions and that. And while AI can use cameras and recognize micro changes, there's something just not tangible that humans can still get from one another. And it's desire.
I have a really good follow-on from that, or to add to that, is that the difference is with human understanding, you bring a lifetime of experiences with every choice that you make. Whereas with AI at the moment, or LLMs at the moment, is we don't even know how far back their memory goes. I mean, there's starting to be these tests of does ChatGPT have 6 months or 3 months worth of memory, or like we don't know yet. But either way, it's still not a lifetime of nuance that is going to help make those choices and decisions.
And that's spot on.
Yeah.
But allowing us to take that analysis of a large data set, so be it if we look at the customer journey cycle, looking at trends of people who like glasses of water, what do they typically tend to do? We know that people who like nice glasses of water might look at, trying to think here, different types of mugs, and they might look at ceramics as a complementary piece. We can then take all of that data, take all of the correlations, and go, okay, well, do you know what? This is what the average person looks like. This is what they do. We can take data to go, yes, we know 80% of people who buy this are doing X, Y, and Z in their customer journey. People who do that tend to want to feel hydrated. The emotion is they're wanting to survive, thrive, better health, better lifestyle. But you're never going to be able to go, well, why is that? Because humans want to live. That's not the case. It's why. It's because people want to feel better. People want that self-peace, and they want that, all of those emotive pieces that go into the reason behind it. It's
the dopamine hit.
That's it. Yeah.
We are very, very easily triggered with all sorts of dopamine. So, which in a marketing space is really relevant. You can use all of what we know about sales and marketing and customer behaviour and fit that in. But then at the end of the day, what you put into it, those choices you give your LLM is from your experience and from the human experience.
Yeah, to add to that, I think it's about adding. It's not taking away that gut reaction and that human experience and trying to get rid of that and replace it with completely AI data-driven, strategic whatever decisions. I think it's about merging the two. We all have our unique human experience, and we now have access to these robots, for lack of a better word, AI LLMs, that can process the amount of data so quickly. But it's those gut things that we feel instinctively as humans that we can ask the right questions and get answers back really fast and make those gut decisions in the moment based on culture or the way that, events and stuff that are happening. And we've never had that. You've had to generate reports, and it took you a long time to,
read them, understand.
read that, look at a dashboard and know what the hell it's even trying to say to you. But now you can go, contextually, how are people feeling about a glass of water right now? And can you give me some facts or some numbers that maybe back that up? You can literally custom tailor whatever you want and then make a decision based off of that. And you can do that in about 30 seconds, which is just mind-blowing.
What for you guys is from a business perspective too, you just touched on something cultural. So that is something that now opens up the possibilities for you to be able to look at pockets of culture and be able to pinpoint campaigns that are culture driven based on data, which you might not have the amount of people working for you that could fulfill those cultural aspects.
This is a beautiful question. Leads to something that when was Obama elected? 2008, if I'm not wrong. He was the very first president that used social media back then to win a campaign, and I remember that there was a start of something that got a bit out of control,
especially for the next election.
And for the next election in Italy, got out of control where a party had a system, but wasn't AI yet, that was able to sort of report on the comments and would understand the feeling of voters and what was the topic in the moment, and they used to real-time marketing, talking about specific topic, and they got to I think they got 20 or 30% of votes. It was crazy, and then all of a sudden, then they just dropped because obviously there was not a plan for after. It was just a plan to get elected, right?
Yeah.
But now AI can actually, and beside politics, can predict trends, can predict, as you said, can analyze cultural pocket of people, and every cohort, and understand what they need and what they want. Let's talk from a business standpoint. Why aren't businesses using it enough? Yeah, and only the big businesses are. But realistically, this technology is open to everyone. Everyone listening to this podcast, this technology is open to you. You can use it. Why aren't people using it? Is that because there's not enough information, or we don't understand it yet? Or
I think there's plenty of information out there. It's just...
Or it's too much.
What I think there is a fear around it. It's the fear of the unknown. And there is a lot of... Going back to the beginning, you said there's this misinformation around what is the technology. And there is still that ambiguity around what is the technology. So the fear of it, the understanding of how easy it is to use, or maybe not understanding what it is they can give the LLMs or ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or what Copilot, whatever it is that you choose to use, like what can you give it? So I honestly think there needs to be some personal accountability for, as a business owner, whether you're a small business owner or whether you're a medium or big, is just start Googling it and just get in there and have a look. There's so many YouTube channels on it. TikTok's
It's ridiculous. Library.
Yeah, I know. TikTok's is a great place to be on for that short. Totally. I mean, small business owners are terribly time poor, which if they really got around using AI would become less time poor. And you know, it's like micro learning now is a really good resource for them to be able to understand it.
Are we time poor, or are we using our time in the wrong way, especially with AI? Because sometimes, I know this depends on your business, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to be physically there. But
Yeah.
in the service space or marketing agencies today, really you can utilize your time. As Trev said, can we 10x our output in the same amount of time?
You go.
I think you can 10x your output and sort of what's the reverse of this? Like a divide 10x your time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to give away what Bodhi was doing the other day, but he had a task to accomplish for that day, and he had his normal way that he would have achieved it, and then he stopped and he asked himself, could I just ask the LLM and describe what I'm doing in a very verbose way and see what it says? And it output like his work for him, and then he was like, I'm done today.
Yeah, I know, right?
do I go home? Like,
Do you know one of the simplest ways that I've actually helped elevate my executives at the moment is we pay for the ChatGPT service so that we can have the one that you can chat with. And I say every morning on the way to work or every afternoon on the way home, dialogue with your ChatGPT so that you can have a conversation around whatever it is that you are needing to process, and it's all typed up for you. You can go back in, you can edit, you can change, you can do whatever it is that you need, and you can have an entire workflow ready, as you said, instantly in the 20 minutes it takes to drive home.
So good.
Yeah.
And yes, the talking to it thing is just amazing. Like, it's completely changed the game and the way we interface with tech. And and you can just bring to it in your natural language, in whatever form you talk in, whatever way you want to talk to it, and it will help you process stuff and, you know, get aligned even mentally on what it is that you're about to, you know, try and do that day. It's so good. Sorry, I could talk about that.
I know, me too.
Well, it's become my morning routine. Every day on the way to work, I've got Gemini in one ear.
Yeah.
I'm going to call this work up for the day. These are my challenges. Just helps people, give me some ideas, give me some fresh perspectives on it. Tell me how I can look at it from a different way. Help me plan out what the day's going to be. Come into work and...
There was a company, I went to a MailChimp conference last year, and there was a company that basically, they have a leadership team, they have head of functions, and then they created the AI head of functions. And they said the first 2 or 3 months there was a bit of a change management that needed to be done. In contrast, because people were scared, but now basically the head of functions have their own AI head of function and they interface with each other. So you blend the human element and the rational AI thinking, and obviously that it's probably match made in heaven, right?
And then you start getting really techy and you start playing off your AIs or your LLMs against each other. It's like you start in ChatGPT or Copilot and then you feed it to Claude because it's more humanistic, and then you feed it back to ChatGPT to clean it up, and it's like Claude's really good for code as you know.
For Kieran, some low effort, high impact AI driven personalization that a business can implement today.
Oh gosh, that's really good.
Or how are we using AI at Dilate that is helping the team work smarter, for instance? Just pick which one you prefer. I know it was I drop a bomb in there.
Yeah, I was about to say, that was already for this train of thought. For me, it's the easiest implementation of AI for a business to use from a marketing perspective to engage with its audience is personalization. You can have a particular content, be it a blog, a podcast, a short, and you can actually say, can you give me an alternate perspective for this particular piece of content to suit a different audience. So, for example, right now we're doing a podcast about AI targeted towards business owners and, C-suites and sort of, people who are directing and leading business. The best way for this to reach a broad audience is go, hey, actually, can you just give me a regurgitated version that talks to it from a developer's perspective? Can you give me one that gives it to me from an administrative perspective? And it's going to take all of that contextual information and it's going to give you a secondary output that's sharing the same message but targeted towards a different audience. It's personalization. It's people want to read what's suited for them. And this podcast won't be for everybody.
No.
Trav?
So I don't totally know the answer to this question yet, I'll be honest, because I've only been in Dilate now for about 6 days, but I'm starting to see, I walk around the office and immediately the number of times that I've spotted ChatGPT open. So right there, it's already implemented. The other things that I've seen, I don't even know if we're allowed to talk about this, the thing that you and I have been working on.
We can talk about it. It's fine. Someone else probably building it anyway. There's a cool way to. Okay, let's start how I use AI.
Yes.
Because it's I'm in business development, so fairly different than marketing operations. So for me, AI help do sales pitch, research, tonality of emails and check, understand the sentiment, but also it's my assistant in meetings. So I use fireflies.ai. It's everyone can use it. Gives me summaries and gives me also real-time transcript. And then Trevor and I will just having a look at it and we're like, hold on a second. It's transcribing in real time.
Transcript.
So, and I think he came off, we had a meeting about trying to reduce the number of meetings in the company because, I'm not a fan of meetings. People call meetings for everything, but if we can reduce them, it would be great. And for some reason, we ended up, and Trevor's working on a tool that reads the conversation and the transcript in real time and provides you the question you should be asking in that moment.
I love that.
It's like inviting an AI agent into your meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were just playing around and making some silly stuff, like just get it to like tell me 3 or 4 jokes that are in the context of this meeting
And
to start with.
It was working.
It was
Yeah, I
working.
bet.
So in real time, it's able to kind of help and steer the conversation. I shouldn't say steer, supplement or advise or give some recommendations based on how the conversation's going. And again, we've just got some icebreaker jokes in it for now, but you can imagine if you can control that prompt that the GPT has, you can start to like, hey, can you just sit on my shoulder and make sure that I've asked these 4 or 5 questions, and then remind me if I haven't, because I'm human and I'm just trying to maintain this conversation right now. I don't have my notes in front of me. I'm just trying to keep the conversation going. Can someone just help me get through this?
And this started because we had feedback saying, hey guys, we need more information about this. And I was like, okay, I'd have to call the client again and ask, which is not great. Especially for website complex systems or even complex companies, But now AI will be like, we're talking and AI will like, hey, ask about this, please. Like, expand on this. And then I want to work on something that rates the business consultant at the moment, saying, you did great on this, but work on this.
I love this.
So all of a sudden, my role of mentoring and training is much easier because AI is doing that part for me, and I can review it then with that person. But I'm also sure that no one will forget to ask any questions that are.
There's so many use cases for something like that because I use Otter.ai, so that's similar to Firefly. So, and I use it in my board meeting, but we turn it off if there is anything that can't
confidential.
be.
Yeah,
Exactly. Off the record, yes. Nothing's off the record in a board meeting. But no, but it has that summary for us, and it helps write the minutes of the meetings. But it also gives, some really good bullet points. However, what I'd love to have, because as the CEO, I prepare all the agenda, I prepare everything that needs to be discussed, reports, whatnot, And whilst my reports are being done a lot quicker now, thanks to AI, there is still a lot of things that I wish after a board meeting, I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. Or, when we get to general business, we could have asked a lot of questions. And because we only meet every 6 to 8 weeks, then something like that would be really effective to be able to say, hey, don't forget to talk about this, or have you considered...
The meeting master, right?
An MC for your board meeting, or an MC for your production meeting, or, I love it.
We use Firefly as well. You use Firefly as well.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely great. I think for you especially that you have to deal with everyone. It's tough and different topics and functions, and you jump from business development and marketing and production.
Operations is tough. I've been there.
Just to see his calendar and stuff, and it just looks like the most complex game of Tetris that you've ever seen in your life. Like, I was just like, man.
So this is just put on that, and this is where I love this innovative use of artificial intelligence it's all about lessening the mental burden. And it comes back to that question is, do you, for lack of better words, 10x what you're doing, or do you divide 10x minus and free up your time? And I think the biggest measurement of success around that end is relieving that mental stress. And there's nothing worse than going into a meeting going, oh, have I covered everything? Did I talk about everything I wanted to? Yeah, I ticked off all my bullet points, but did I really cover it?
Yeah.
But do you know what that does, though, is by relieving the mental stress is, as a human, opens us up to the creative possibility of what's next, or what else can you contribute, because that mental stress is gone.
That's it. And it's all about just making a better version of ourselves, right? Like, I love the use case. I'm getting very excited for that.
For the listeners out there that might be listening about AI for the first time, or they're confused, we talk about a lot of automation in business, but what is the difference between automation, AI agent? Because people don't understand that. And one thing I want to say to everyone, AI is as good as the way you're using it at the end of the day. So, Kieran, with you, what is an automation? Easy, with Zapier. People think, oh, there's AI behind it. No, there's no AI. It's just telling someone to do something else. But what is the difference between an automation, an agent, and how can people use it?
I think building back on what you were saying earlier around the fear of the unknown, is people hear AI and they think it's this...
Skynet.
You say something where magic happens, and all of a sudden, you've got this output, and like, how has this happened? I love spreadsheets. Contrary to me trying to make them all redundant in the office, I love spreadsheets. And when you're building a spreadsheet, building a formula, it's all about if, and, or, then logic. Right? If this happens and or this happens, then do this. And it's the basis for every formula. Automation is essentially if, and, or, then logic, but for doing things. If my cup is less than half full, top it up. If my cup is less than half full and I have a meal, fill up a cup with wine. It's all about different variables. Automation is input, parameters, output. AI is essentially going, well, I don't need to tell you all of the parameters. It's going, I need this kind of output. I need to make sure that my visitors, my guests, we call people at dinner table, I don't have dinner guests, are hydrated and they've got drinks for the whole evening. And the AI can then go, okay, cool. So I will then need to make sure that they have cups that are full, and we want to make sure they have a hydration, and make sure they have a nice beverage or a glass of wine. And that's where AI comes into it, is taking out the strict binary parameters around it.
Yeah, that was a good example.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think like to really understand the difference, you have to take into context where we've been in the, I say we, but like humanity has been in the age of computing, and I get the sense that like we're basically trying to replicate ourselves, really. But in the past, it's all been about like procedural logic, as you're saying. If, then, else, do this. If X equals 2, then do that. If X equals 3, do that. And it's very finite. It's very procedural. But not every question has
it's binary, right?
Yeah, binary. And there's a lot of gray area in between. And that is usually where a human has had to been involved and in that decision and understand the problem, and then bring everything into context and make a decision. Well, now AI is that. Like, you can throw in whatever you want, whatever input, and it will try its best to understand it and give you an output or a decision. And in terms of like automation, usually in a pipeline, at some point you're going to have a human being. At some point they've got to go, okay, here's the case that I have, and I've got to make my ruling and then pass it on to the next line in the pipeline. But now we can start to maybe sometimes. And I know this is a bit risky, especially when you get into the governance and all that stuff.
We're going to touch very soon.
You can maybe have some agents that can start to make some decisions, or at least, hey, this is my decision I'm thinking about making. Here it is in a really succinct way. Human being, is this okay? And keep that pipeline going. So I think there's going to be a massive shift in automation versus procedural stuff.
To agent.
To agent. Yeah.
Can I quickly build on that? And so it's really, I love the way you spoke about humans intervening. So there's a platform out there called IFTT, if this then that, and essentially it's an automation builder. And it's going, so I have mine set, so when I leave home, it makes sure that it's connected to my smart home, and it makes sure all my lights are turned off whenever I leave home. If I'm on my way back and the temperature is above a certain temperature, my aircon turns on when I'm about 10 kilometers away from home.
It's not AI, it's
I was about to say.
automation.
This is automation, yeah.
This is all automation. I've given it those binary rules. What I love is that you can now then go it allows you to integrate with different LLMs. So I've gone and told it, this is all of my assets my home has now. I'm going to be coming home. Can you prepare the house for me? And it's converse with it and trains it and goes, okay, well, what sort of things do you want to do? I want to make sure I'm comfortable with my temperature. I want to make sure that my entryway light's on. I want to make sure that my garage opens, as I'm approaching home and things like that. And it's going, okay, cool. These are the sort of things you want to achieve. Here's my ideas. Here's what I'd like to do for you. And it will go, cool, would you like us to do these steps? And you say, yes. Pulls it back into automation then, but it allows that contextual, here's all the options. Here's everything I can do. Here's what I'd like to do for you.
Yeah, nice.
Are you okay with that?
Sounds like you could be like driving home and your plans change and it's a movie night kind of night, and you tell the thing like, hey, don't do all the normal stuff, just prepare movie night or whatever.
Yeah. And it's just, it's being able to have a system that can go, oh, okay, these are the options I have. This is what we want to achieve. Can I do this for you? I was going to say yes, why not?
Yeah.
And before we go into the governance and compliance, ethics, and risk, ChatGPT, Midjourney, like Claude, DeepSeek now, people hear all these names and are like, okay, Gemini, Copilot, which one do I have to use? What are the differences? How would you explain that to someone?
Look, at the moment, there are so many out there that you can test and play with that are all free. And, it's LLMs are fast becoming free everywhere. So whilst we pay for the ability to have longer tokens and better reasoning and better memory, DeepSeek came out and kind of competed in that space. However, again, that kind of presents issues as well as like, where does it all go? Where does all the data go, or who has access to it? So I would recommend that people just have a look what best fits for them and play and test a little bit with ChatGPT, with Claude, with Gemini, with Copilot if you've got Microsoft licenses, and just see what it fits in your business life, your work life, your home life, and just play with it. But I tend to use at least 4. Myself, so ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, and Copilot for my staff.
And then when you say about body using that, I think it was ChatGPT 3 or Mini or something, the new one they released last.
Yeah, that was to compete
He's
with
got the one with the deep
DeepSeek.
research. Yeah.
That's free.
I was blown away, but just reading the train of thought of AI saying, okay, I have to do this. So you asked me to do this. I'm going to do this because this is going to lead to, and it was just writing it. And body was just like, oh, wow.
However, and this is the thing is like they've rushed to market with that because they're trying to be competitive with DeepSeek. So there is still, like, I don't want to get too complex, but there's a lot of hallucinations out there with LLMs, and I think that, you know, the reasoning models that are out there they're fantastic, but they still need a great deal of human input.
Absolutely. I tend to agree with it, and, you know, always double check.
Bias.
things.
Yeah.
Don't, you know, remove the use of doctors or lawyers. That's not what it's for. That's not what it's for. Like,
Although it is. I mean, the case only last week of the LLM being able to predict or to diagnose a child that had 3 years of human diagnostics and hadn't been able to reach a diagnosis, and then the LLM was able to. So I see the incredible
biomedical
where it's going to go. However, I did have a conversation with somebody on the weekend who's a developer about how it will be implemented, because whilst I think it's going to probably outperform, and I look at the medical space, it's going to outperform human element, not even in research, just in diagnosis and, you know, going to your local GP. Where business is going to halt very quickly is that in the medical profession, it's very litigious. And therefore, nobody wants to look at, well, let's just step back for a second and go, okay, social media, Facebook and all of these platforms do not want to be classified as a media profile, because they don't want to be responsible for the content that's put on its platforms. The medical profession is going to be the same. They do not want to classify AI technology as a product, as something that if it makes a mistake, who's
They have to pay
responsible?
for it, yeah.
Who's responsible? So that's a very, very interesting space we're in at the moment. So.
But I do
still
see,
need that human involved.
Absolutely, that I don't think it's going to go away from the medical industry or legal profession.
I read an article where someone used it for a legal. It's actually a lawyer using it, and then went to the judge, like to courtroom, and AI made up a case.
Oh, of course.
So it's like the case, and then they just like, there's no case, and then like the lawyer was like, red-ended, and it's bad. So because it didn't, you know,
again, it's
proofread what AI is doing.
when you get stuck into the real weeds of it all. Is like LLMs just want to please.
And I think,
And they're very,
And they
come
give you
across
what they think you want to.
very confidently.
Yeah, absolutely.
they want to please. Is that because human wants to please humans sometimes? Is that how we?
It's always been
that way.
crafted. It just wants to fulfill its prompt, and the prompt might tell it to do something. And if you ask for 5 examples of something and there are only 3 available, it's going to make up 2 because it wants to give you what you're asking for.
So let's go into, you know, a bit of the future. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do think that
I wish I did.
I wish I did too, but medical research, diagnose, I think it's great. I'm at the moment I'm going through a health journey. I'm gonna die. I have a personal trainer, but this little watch is tracking my vitals, is and I absolutely love the AI insights and analyzing, the trends and your losing body fat percentage or your resting heart rate. I think it's great, and I think we can do much more than that for people that have chronic health issues and I don't know if you probably know this very well. How much is AI going to impact the diagnosis and research, and positively, but also what are the risks? Because we are opening up on bodies to private companies now, and they can, you know what I mean. So
well, let me just start with an example first of where I see. I like to follow the money and where the money's going. And if you look at Apple are really heavily investing, as this is going to be a new space for them with their technology and the wearable technology that is going to get into a medical space. And I think this is a smart move for them because they've been doing it for a while and there's always that trust already that's in that space. But when it comes to medical research, now we've been funding research here in WA for 46 years, and I speak to our researchers regularly about what they're using, what are they doing now, and it surprises me that they're not delving into it as quickly as they could be. But I think because they're still in a space of intellectual property and concerns about where their research is going to end up. So I would see quite quickly that research bodies are going to start building their own technology within the parameters so that the researchers can input that data and they can have 10 years worth of data analysed in a month or in a week, or I think the technology is going
very fast.
It's phenomenal what's changing in this space. However, what's stopping it from happening as quickly as the rest of the AI technology is at the moment is that intellectual property and ownership of that, which is kind of where I'm in with the education space as well. It's like I'm having to build our own technology because I have such a huge privacy risk and cyber risk for the kids that we work with in child cancer that, you know, we're going to spend a phenomenal amount of money for a not-for-profit on building our own technology so that we can provide that privacy and whatever goes in. You know, that's still going to have cyber risk issues, but
especially when it's our body, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the medical space is I'm excited by it, but I am also aware that there's going to be some resistance to it as well.
And I mean, that's the one thing for me that I wasn't fascinated about. So for context, I'm a type 1 diabetic. So I have a glucose sensor on my arm, which feeds to my insulin pump, which feeds to my phone, which feeds to my watch, which gets sent to my partner in real time. So anything is ever happening, I've got data everywhere. My watch is obviously collecting all the other bits and pieces, activities, O2, your heart rate, all that other stuff. And I've been working with a South American company, and they're looking at using the data that's collected from these sensors, utilizing an algorithm with contextual information to understand how humans react to different events. So, for example, stress for me, I'm a bit of a weird case, will always bring my sugar level down. For a lot of people, actually, it does it the other way. I get told I'm a medical anomaly.
Good to be studied.
But that's it. And so what's interesting is then for it to be able to look at, and where this model is looking to go is, let's contextualize calendar information. Let's contextualize GPS data. And go, well, what are you doing? What's actually the impact on your body? And it's not just about doing a diary and going, I had an apple at 2 p.m. An apple did this to my blood sugars. It's going, well, what are you doing? You had an apple while you were walking. You've just gone into a big meeting. You are doing some deep work, whatever it is, and it's being able to do that. The issue that we're having at the moment is data privacy. So we're very localized, you know, air-gapped machines are running self-hosted models to analyze, interpret that data. To take that to scale is a massive, massive issue and a risk that I haven't sort of come to a solution yet, short of getting a big grant and building your own infrastructure and network and everything to house and process that data, which is a phenomenal undertaking.
And it does present the problem with why this space, like, there is enough computing power out there or technology out there that could probably resolve so many of our medical concerns, our health issues. But I am confident we will figure out the privacy issues. We'll figure out how to use this technology in a way that is going to be safe, is going to be respectful, ethical, and mindful of people's information. And I think this is where humans have to have a very big input in how we position ourselves in creating that technology. But I do believe that AI is going to help us resolve some of the biggest medical concerns and health issues. I certainly hope it works on the energy issues that we have in the world.
Yeah. It's a lot of problems to solve by AI. I think removes also the emotional decision making, which politics is led by emotional decision making, react to, my voters want this, so I do this, but it's not necessarily the right thing to do. So I think if AI can be separated from that, will be good. But question for you, AI is moving fast.
Yes.
We say that, right? Super fast. Like, I don't know, probably tomorrow or something. And I think regulators are struggling to keep up with how fast it's moving. You know, I remember was like when like digital marketing started, open up to everyone. 15, 20 years ago, universities couldn't keep up with these courses, and that's when all these agencies came from from nowhere, and because university just couldn't keep up with it. It was like they do a unit and it's redundant already. So when it comes to AI and legislation, how should businesses and other entities prepare for it? I say businesses just because our listeners are probably business owners and they work with us, so how they can prepare for it, because obviously something like DeepSeek now, government employees can use DeepSeek.
In Australia, absolutely. And look, let's just look at Australia as there is no governance around it. There is no regulations. To date, we don't have anything as yet that will help a business understand. A bit like cyber has the Essential 8 that's compliant, and you have to follow that if you're in business. There is, in 2019, there was a government recommendation of at least 8 principles that we should follow around AI and adoption. However, my suggestion is, while we're still figuring out what those regulations look like or should look like or how we can do it, is we should be leaders in our own ethical challenges. And as a business owner, you should be looking at this as a voluntary kind of idea. And so what are my responsibilities to my staff, myself, my customers, and every stakeholder that is affected by your business? And then once you figure that out and involve your team in figuring out what those policies should look like around your business, then do this as a volunteer thing, and maybe business can lead government in this space, because we certainly lost the opportunity when social media started, and where everybody can see what our government is trying to attempt to achieve now. The horses are all bolted, the cattle are gone, the sheep are gone, the kids are gone. It's all gone, and we're trying to backpedal. We're at a space now where we could be inviting some really good thought leaders into this space and saying, let's look at what we know from social media. How can we look at this from a business perspective? Because the opportunity to change and innovate is so real that if we don't give some guardrails, if we don't actually have some ideas of what regulation looks like, then businesses are just kind of back to the wild, wild west. So I think if businesses lead in their own volunteer ethical component to using AI, I would say...
A bit of transparency in that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do want to say this is not really an area that I am at all like first.
You just use it and I get excited.
But what I will say, and I think we've all just touched on this, we obviously didn't get social media right, and we kind of just ignored it, and that problem became bigger and bigger and bigger. What I'm excited by is that we've learned from that, and we're starting to ask the right questions, I think, early on, even though, it's still been out for years, but earlier than we did with social media. We're trying to fix mistakes, whereas now we're asking the questions, how do we move forward? How do we move forward correctly? How do we move forward so that the next generation is not completely
overrun? And because here's the other thing too is, and being in the dev world, you would understand, is that whilst it's moving so quickly, and I did a developer's course in January just so that I could understand the language, and it just blew my mind on how to code and how to create agents and whatnot, so that I knew how to speak to developers and kind of use that model. However, it's already obsolete. What I learned is obsolete, and that was only 3 weeks ago. So it's like on a daily, I am all consumed by how things are changing. However, what I do know, and this is why you are having this podcast today, is that the general public are about 2 years behind the technology. So, we've got a couple of years to be able to put these guardrails into place, or to put some guidelines into place to allow businesses to say, we want to participate, but we don't know how. And,
But I'm born 1997. So my generation, we've probably been tested on everything possible. Like we were like the guinea pigs of of the world. Our generation. We're tasting video games, flashing lights, the internet,
Flashing lights.
and social media. We got all of it. So, and I think this is something I said to someone last week. I don't remember who it was, but my family back in Italy, we were I think the fourth family in my region to have internet and access to the internet. And I was like 8 years old, and I started doing research for school and assignments with the internet. And my teachers were like blown away by this. Fast forward a couple of years, everyone was doing it. And schools said, you can't do it anymore. Stopped it. And okay, cool. And then the internet evolved and social media and stuff. So now I'm thinking, actually, the smartphone came out, don't bring a smartphone, and then now kids have iPads and they can use it on their computer. Now AI is going to be there for the generation born now into 2020, and we saw our kids are sponges when they learn things. So for me, what really blows me, I learned 4 languages at school: Latin, Greek, French, Spanish, English, of course, plus Italian. No one thought anything about coding to a kid, which I think is absurd, right? So is education going to change? And our kids are going to use AI at school, because whether we like it or not, that's the future, and we're not going to stop that. Yeah. What do you think about?
100%. I mean, I am essentially trying to create the technology that will allow our students in the Back on Track Foundation kind of catch up and use the technology to kind of craft the lesson plans or the education that they need to fill the gaps. However, yes, education has to change. It will change to the point where when universities started, so I'm on the marketing panel for my alum, and because I got my master's in business, and that question I'm always asked is, what are universities supposed to teach? What are we supposed to be working with our future plans? And I remember when it first came out, like 2 years ago, and the universities, absolutely not. So I remember doing my master's, and it was like, I had to put every one of my papers through the plagiarism, and so now that they have the technology to look at are university students using AI technology, and whilst they welcome it, you cannot present papers or academic papers that have been completely written by AI. You need to be smart enough to rethink what AI is doing. However, it's now being encouraged to use it for research, to use it for, we've got the PhD level GPTs and Claudes and DeepSeeks. So, we can fundamentally use it in education in so many different ways, and it's adaptive and intuitive. So I would argue that if the federal government in Australia, the education department and state levels are not already looking at how can they build this into their curriculum, then we're probably going to be a nation that is going to fall very quickly behind, because China is using it, Japan is using it, Taiwan is using it, and I would say Americans are already using it as well, probably English as well.
What fascinates me is giving AI to a 5, 6, 7-year-old and see what they do with it.
I have a 6-year-old at home.
What I'm saying, I try to see this in a positive way.
Yeah.
When we're 18, 20, our brain is already wired in a specific way. Those kids are just like free. They just see the world in a very different way.
Yes.
Everything is like awesome,
possible.
Great. What can I do? Everything is possible. They don't have the limits, because we've been told, again, go back to the 80s and our generation, I want to be a singer. No, you don't make money with it. Just go study and find a real job. That was the thing. So
let me give you this example then. Is like, I think that from 0 to 6, brains are like an AI. It's like what input do you give them? What data do you give them so that they can then learn? And because they are endless possibilities, which is what AI is. I am not sure that I would give my 6-year-old AI, because I'm scared of what she might be able to achieve in that space. I'm still at a point where I'm very humanistic in our approach to technology. However, we know that they're going to need technology skills. We're a very technology adopted family. We've got computer scientists in the family. We've got, internet theory degree people, and, there's a lot of technology adopters in our family. So our girls are going to grow up with that. But I'm still wrestling with the human element of, I'm a Gen Xer. I grew up with before smartphones, before laptops, before dial-up, and so I want to give them a bit of both.
We need a parental
bit
control.
of both, yeah.
And that's definitely one of the biggest risks. I mean, back when I was in primary school, it was part of the, what do they call it, the Project Boxpot, which was the pilot program to get computers into schools. And so I was on the student board to go, this is why students should have that. When I went to high school, we did the rollout trial program for it for the first year, which was nationwide or statewide. And on the backside, they're like, oh yeah, this worked great. Kids learnt more. They did everything, which was fantastic. And now every kid in school has computers. But the risks weren't assessed. It's the same with AI. It's we're not going, don't use it because it's bad. It's going, well, you can use it, but how do we put controls and parameters so that what they have access to, what the models have access to, is safe for children, safe for the general public.
And this is where you get into, real governance and ethics component side of things, is that we need more people more stakeholders in this space, to not just the really, really smart people, but the stakeholders that are going to, like parents and educators and whomever is participating in planning out what does a child's education pathway look like now. We all need to get into a room and say, well, this is what I think, this is how I feel, and this is my experience. And so how does that inform us in writing policies or writing safeguards into? Well, we have no idea. We talk about how quickly AI is moving. Just imagine that from my 6-year-old's 10 years from now, when she's a teenager, and most kids have been in social media for a few years and are dealing with the emotional baggage that social media gives. What does AI in 10 years look like for our kids? It's like,
and obviously, AI is, even the creators of AI say, we don't know what the pace AI is learning. We don't really know what it's
now
learning.
it's creating its own models itself.
which is problematic.
So, can we build safeguards for system we don't know? Because the reality is we don't know what's going on. That's the scary part.
Yeah.
And besides this kind of metric scenarios, which were already ruled out at the start, what is the worst case scenario that you generally think is going to happen?
I remember this, this always comes to mind, this story called Manna. It's a short story. It was written maybe 20, 25 years ago. Great short story. And it was about AI. And AI was released in 2 countries simultaneously, the United States and Australia. And the cultural differences between the two kind of played themselves out in the different AI scenarios. In the States, it was very dystopian, and AI sort of managed everyone and told them, they became so reliant on it, like they relied on it to tell them what to do every day, to prepare their homes at the end of the day, etc. And the people sort of like, I kind of imagine they're like, that frog scenario where the water is boiling, and all of a sudden AI was running their entire lives. Now, that's very, very dystopian, but in contrast, in Australia, it was very much the opposite. And it was the culture of Australia chose to use it as a tool to better the lives of everyone. And it sort of like, it became less about management and profit and trying to, make the rich richer, so to speak. And it was just, how do we level up everyone at the same time? Obviously, the cost of everything goes down.
That's
Things
almost
are more
dystopian, isn't it?
What's that?
That's an almost dystopian kind of.
Cost of
So
with that RBI next week. We still
I think my worst fear is just that we rely on it too much, and that people begin to kind of check out from making their own decisions, so to speak, just rely on it. And
over reliance of
and because you can now, it's like, okay, cool, that's
Kylie, what do you think?
Well, it's kind of like, you've used that example as a story. I'll use the example of when in education, when the calculators came into play, and that's like, that means that we're not going to think about math anymore, and math is what we need to be able to solve the world's problems. But that didn't happen. So I'm totally agreeing with what I can see is if people don't kind of get involved in AI, if they don't actually start to participate, I'm more concerned that there's going to be this shift of inequity. So, there's a lot of people out there that may not have access to internet or access to a laptop that can just check into these things. I mean, everybody seems to have a smartphone, but that doesn't necessarily mean people will have the knowledge. So what I'm concerned about is that those that have and those that don't have is going to continue to separate. So from a fundamental level, I think we need to be looking at how do we ensure everybody has access to this tool to be able to better their lives. And
empowerment. Everyone is empowered to use AI.
Absolutely.
In any shape or form.
Yeah. And to make sure that there is no bias, because that is my governance thing, is I'm really concerned about the bias of input data and,
Kieran?
I was going to say that is a perfect segue into my biggest fear is
Skynet.
Skynet.
is that the reliance that we have on artificial intelligence and the way that it's implemented systemically into government, into organisations, into society, is that of a bias for you. And that the people and the minds behind particular agents to the ones that rise to monopoly, albeit, we look at search engines, we've got really Google at the major monopoly with being in the other sort of in a small space up there, is the people that are the minds behind it, creating it with a bias or an influence to sway any way whatsoever. I think that's the biggest concern.
Yeah.
What
What
are your
determines
marks?
those weights that go into it? That's
Mine is funny because it's actually something that I hope will be real in future. That be able to clone people. I'll be able to talk to my granddad in 20 years' time.
Ooh, now we're talking ethics.
Sorry, I don't want to. This might be emotional, but imagine if my son will be able to talk to my granddad who passed away ages ago and be able to have I'm not saying a proper chat. And I know there's a lot of ethics, but it'll be a great thing, right?
Yeah.
But the risk in there is.
yeah.
I would then
Just because you can, should you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, because I had this idea, imagine, you go to the cemetery and then you scan a QR code and you start talking and you have like a deep web version of a person who passed away and you can talk to them. Because the AI talk to them for 10 years, so they know exactly how they respond. You can clone their voice. There will be, I don't know, something amazing. Is that heavy?
Well, then,
Do you know when? Because then
you get
are
into
we-
It's a good
ethics.
thing to talk to the dead.
Yeah.
No, but I think
It changes our human experience if we do that. I mean, that's where ethics really play a big part in this. Because if you change what is essentially a human, we need to feel pain. We need to feel sadness. We need to feel all
Exactly.
of the emotions that we are
need closure,
currently-
right? We're not giving closure. with
We
that.
do. If we're kind of cloning dogs so that we never lose our favourite dog, or we're
It's
cloning.
happening though. They're cloning the
I
dogs.
understand
It's
that,
crazy.
and-
It's like,
Yeah.
for me, it's like,
Is this a thing? I haven't.
Yeah, it is.
Is it-
Yeah.
if you have enough money, you can
Yeah.
do it. But as Kali said, I thought it was a great idea, and then I was thinking, I was like, you never have closure. Like you'll be living in it's gonna be like Black Mirror, sort of hell eventually, and so it's terrible.
It's
right?
terrifying. I mean, obviously, there's TED Talk recently where they were talking about using machine learning, artificial intelligence from the DNA that extracted from woolly mammoth. They're actively working on bringing
Bringing it
woolly
back.
mammoth back into society. And
But why?
Yeah, the question is why. Evolution has, for lack of better words, taken its course. What risks are we bringing in, and ethical dilemmas of reintroducing species that have,
Yeah.
extinct.
But
This is a random thought, but my kids, I kind of saw this as a telltale sign when they first got introduced to the Google Homes in the series.
Yeah.
And they literally were scared, terrified that there was this personality that wasn't really there, but it was there. And like, what does that mean? That they're coming at it so fresh and so innocently, and then there's all of a sudden their reaction to that. like kind of gave me that feeling of like
Maybe this isn't right.
yeah.
Let's wrap up with a question for everyone, guys, and for the listeners. Obviously, the event will be soon, so speak in person. But start from you, Trev. If you could give businesses one piece of AI advice going into 2025, the next 12 months, what would it be?
I mean, I think we've kind of touched on this the whole conversation, but start using AI. Figure out how to use it. Don't and not just like at a ChatGPT level where you're creating copy or writing your emails in a quicker, easier way. Like really ask yourself, what are those processes that I'm doing that I don't necessarily, maybe some people don't like doing, that you could automate, that you can make easier. And just, start from the top and work your way through your business and ask yourself at each step in your business's processes, like, is this something that could be, helped by AI or not?
Can AI do this?
Yeah, can AI do this?
Can I get some me time?
Yep, exactly.
Kylie, what's your advice for?
My advice would be to actually start using it and start asking all of your colleagues and those that you work with or that are in your workspace and just say, how do you use it? What have you had success-wise and how do you implement? Because if you have no idea on how to implement, that's probably one of the biggest issues. But there are so many tools out there that would help. Come to you guys and, absolutely come and learn how you can use it for your marketing. And because being a small business, marketing is one of those big things that it can sometimes be a high cost, but, So, just get involved and start looking at what benefits you can gain from using AI, and then check yourself in 6 months to see what are those successes that you've had, and then start looking at some other options and implementations.
Kieran, Mr. Operation Manager.
I was trying to not sound repetitive and go, we should just use AI. So I think for me, the biggest piece of advice is when you go to use AI, because I think we've established now everyone should start using it, is to start small, be realistic. A lot of people go, AI, this is fantastic, I want to try and achieve the moon with it, which is great. I'm not saying you can't or don't do it, but it's go ask yourself, what is the one thing that if I can make this easier would make my life better?
Yeah, that was good. For me, future-proof your business or your career and start using AI, and you're not going to lose your job.
And also find the agencies that are using it as well, because if you really are lost, then find an agency that uses it to help you.
Yeah.
Well, Trev, Kylie, Kieran, thank you so much. It was a great chat. We got told off because we went over time.
There's a lot to talk about.
Those podcasts there, we could go for 3-4 hours, but we have our event coming. Please stay tuned to what's happening next, and thank you so much. And guys, hope to see you soon and have another chat about AI. Okay, in 4 months' time maybe. See what happens. This is Skynet is going to come. Thanks.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Awesome. That was great.
Good, guys.